Hey everybody, Clint here. Got my reading glasses on today. so I meant to discuss this before Christmas rolled around, but as you know, things tend to get busy around that time of year. But it's not too late to discuss it. I want to talk about a massacre that happened on Christmas Day, 1863, here in Southeast Missouri. It actually happened down in Ripley County 159 years ago. And I dare say it was one of the worst massacres of the war. And that's saying something since Missouri was not known for its big battles, rather, a lot of small ones. And this has kind of turned into just a blip in history, largely forgotten. That is until Paulette Giles came out with her book Enemy Women in 2003 or 4, I believe. And essentially, Paulette Giles is a best-selling author, and she wrote this book, which is historical fiction. However, it was based on historical fact, and at the beginning of each chapter of this fiction book was a little snippet of real history from the area. And the fact that she wrote about the Wilson Massacre, like I said, which happened on Christmas Day, 1863 in Ripley County, Missouri, it brought the story, up front and center again, I guess, for lack of a better word. And it got a lot of attention, and it got a lot of media attention, and this story that was largely accepted for years, suddenly there was a couple of people disputing it. And boy, did they do a hell of a job disputing it. I mean, they were masters at propaganda. But we'll get into that in just a second. Let me lay the groundwork for you. I first learned of the Wilson Massacre while doing research for a speech I was giving at Pilot Knob, Missouri on June 5th, 2004. And I talked about the massacre. And at the end of it, the director of Fort Davidson State Historic Site at the time asked me where I got my information. I told him it was a genealogy record of Reverend Jesse Pratt, who served in the 15th Missouri Cavalry Confederate. And the director said, well, if you got that information from Jerry Ponder, it can't be trusted. So it sort of created a challenge for me, if you will. And I thought, okay, challenge accepted. And I did eventually get in touch with Jerry Ponder, but that was in 2005 and he was dying. Talked to him briefly over the phone, and he did send me part of the information he found that proved the massacre happened, actually a couple of pages. It wasn't until many years later I would find the entire account in the Missouri State Historical Society records, in what is known as the Ponder Papers. But anyway, it set me on this mission to learn more about it. And what I found was one of the most prominent figures was Colonel Timothy Reeves of the 15th Missouri Cavalry, Confederate States of America. And as I said in my speech, Reeves was born on April 28, 1821 in Ashe County, North Carolina. And it is believed he migrated to Ripley County, Missouri in 1844. He purchased a farm in the Donovan, Missouri area, and later helped build and establish a Baptist church there. And it's also where he became a minister. Reeves' first duty in the Confederate Army was a staff officer in the 3rd Cavalry Regiment, 1st Division, Missouri State Guard. He was among those concerned with the protection of the absence of regular troops, and Reeves organized a few hundred men known as Reeves' Company of Independent Scouts. Now, the Wilson Massacre occurred on Christmas Day, 1863. Major James Wilson of the 3rd Missouri State Militia. This gets a little confusing because this was different than the 3rd Missouri Cavalry, Missouri State Guard. That was Southern. 3rd Missouri State Militia Cavalry was Yankee. But anyway, It occurred on Christmas Day, 1863, and Major James Wilson, who I described as a heartless Union officer with a take no prisoners policy, he committed the massacre. He and his troops rode into Ripley County on Christmas Day and killed 35 soldiers and 62 civilians. And this included men, women, and children. Later, at the Battle of Pilot Knob in September 1864, James Wilson and 6 of his men were captured by the Confederates. They were held for 1 week and then turned over to Major Timothy Reeves, who was commander of the now 15th Missouri Cavalry, Confederate States of America Regular Army. They were turned over to Reeves, who basically executed Wilson and 6 of his men for what they did on Christmas Day. After the war, there was approximately 10,000 Southerners, Confederates, who surrendered at Jacksonport, Arkansas under General M. Jeff Thompson. And it's been said that Colonel Timothy Reeves was the only one not paroled that day. Some people say there were a few others who weren't paroled, but he was either the only one not paroled or one of the very few who weren't. And that was for his retaliatory killing of Major James Wilson, who committed the massacre on Christmas Day, 1863. Now, by all accounts, Reeves was shipped to St. Louis, where he was going to be held and executed for murdering what they called murdering Wilson. I'm sorry. But for unknown reasons, after a month, Reeves was simply let go. And he came back to Ripley County, Missouri, and basically picked up right where he left off, preaching. Although during this time he was known to carry guns with him when he preached. It's an interesting story, and like I said, some men, basically 2 men, said it didn't happen that way. But in my research, I found that they had reasons for saying it didn't happen. They had connections through their ancestors and through their own political bias for wanting to bury the story of the Wilson Massacre, which happened on Christmas Day, 1863 in Ripley County, Missouri. And in future videos, I will get into what their bias was and what their reasons were for trying to say it didn't happen. Unfortunately, they duped a lot of people, including the Historical Society in Ripley County, Missouri. One of them even managed to write the entire, he managed to rewrite the entire history of Ripley County, Missouri, and these people went along with it, and it's a damn shame. But just wanted to throw that out there and talk about what happened here in 1863 on Christmas Day. And if you read the description of this video, I'll have a link in which you can click on it and purchase the book. And like I said, there'll be more videos coming on down the line. So I hope you guys had a very Merry Christmas, and I hope y'all have a very prosperous and happy New Year. Until next time, I'll talk to you later. Bye.